Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Accidental Beauty. If you're new, welcome. My name is Laura. I'm a self-taught makeup enthusiast. I mainly post makeup related content, but occasionally I branch out into other beauty related topics. So if that's your thing, I'd love it if you could subscribe to my channel. Today, I'm going to be doing a very thorough first impressions review of the e.l.f. blush palette. Looks like this. This is the powder one. I know that they also have a cream one. So it's 4 shades, and this one is the light one. I'm like pointing as if you can actually read this. This one is the light one. Okay, so they have a light one and a dark one. They don't have a medium one. I'm just gonna be talking about the light one, obviously. Basically, what I'll be doing in this video is I'll be incorporating each of the shades into different looks. So I show 4 different looks total. I swatch the colors on my face, each one for obviously the different look. Sort of provide some first impressions, and then I'll have my full review at the end because I have tried this out over the course of 4 months. So I've really gotten a chance to try it out, see what I like, see what I don't like. So if you are interested in learning about this palette, seeing what I think about it, then please keep on watching. So I'm just gonna probably put this in somewhere. I apologize for the fact that like there's so many different clips of me in different looks. I filmed this video over the course of several days, actually several months. This has taken such a long time for this video to get put together. This is like a true review video because I filmed 4 different looks, each look using a different blush color, and then I've actually been using the blush, all 4 shades, quite a bit over the course of the past 4 months or so. So I've really gotten a chance to try it out, try it with different looks, try it with different foundations, and really see how it performs. All right, so I'll swatch all 4 shades on my arm just in case you're interested. So this is the first shade. The second shade, the third shade, and the 4th shade. Now, obviously they don't swatch as bright or as pigmented as eyeshadows. Again, this is blush. This is something that you build up the intensity of, so they're not going to be as pigmented, but just in case you're interested or seeing them kind of like isolated, this is what they look like. Okay, so I am going to try out, wow, I look so ghostly right now. I'm going to try out this first shade, and let's just give this a go. I'm just tapping it in lightly. I feel like this is going to be a lot, so I'm just going to tap off some of the excess, and let's just go nuts. And I can't see anything, so I guess I tapped off too much. I don't know if you can really see it. It's, you know what, this foundation is really bad. The blush is super pretty. All right, so this is the final look. I threw on a 2-tone wig that I got from UVme, and I just feel like it kind of ties the whole rosy look together, and then the blue just kind of balances out those tones. So I'll just zoom in so you can see what the blush looks like. So I really like this blush. It's just really rosy. Unfortunately, the foundation that I'm trying out today really emphasizes the texture on my skin, and I feel like that kind of interfered with my application of the blush, but I got it to work eventually. It's just such a beautiful color. I feel like it's pretty close to my own natural like blush color, if that makes sense. Like the color, like when my cheeks get flushed, I feel like it's kind of pretty close to this color. Pigmentation wise, I feel like I had to build it up a little bit, but once I did, it layered on itself beautifully. Yeah, it's just a really pretty color. So yeah, I like it a lot. All right, so we're gonna dip into this shade today, which is a very peachy shade. I don't usually go for blushes that are this, for lack of a better word, like orange toned. I usually try and stick within the pinks, but we're gonna try this out today. Oh, it's very peachy. It's very nicely pigmented. It's kind of a more natural blush. It's really pretty. Okay, so this is shade number 2. So one thing that I'll note, I feel like it kind of blended in with my contour. It's kind of hard to differentiate the two, which isn't such a bad thing because I feel like it sort of looks a bit more seamless. But that's just something to note if that is something that you're not super into and you want each face product to kind of stand out on its own. You might not like this particular shade. So this is look number 3. We're gonna dip into this shade. Very similar to the first one. It's a little more vibrant. Really nice pigmentation. And this is look number 3. I'm really happy with the color. I feel like it's very, very similar to the first shade. The first shade is a little bit lighter, so maybe this one's a little bit more pigmented, but both of them were stunning. There's not a whole lot of difference between them, but I'm really happy with the way that this blush looks on me, the way it's sort of not interacting, but like the way it looks with my eye look. It just looks super flattering, super rosy, and I love it. Ignore my hair right now. I'm trying out a heatless curling method. I'll link the video once I finish this experiment and we can see whether it worked or not. All right, so I am going to be using the last and final shade in this blush palette. It's kind of it's like a corally pink with a little bit of shimmer in here. I'm curious to see whether the shimmer shows up or not. So, oh, coated the brush really nicely. My contour bronzer situation is a little bit dark today, so I feel like it's kind of clashing a little bit. But it's really, really pretty. You can barely see the glitter up close, but I feel like it's got a little bit of a sheen to it, but that might be the foundation that I'm wearing. Kind of applied too much blush. Just poked myself in the eye. Might be a little bit intense, but you know what? We're gonna stick with it. All right, so this is the final look. Really, really love it. It actually stayed on really, really nicely all day. The little like micro glitter didn't get in the way. I was actually sort of expecting a bit more of a glow from it, which you can barely see. I'm not upset about that. I was just kind of expecting that, and like I wouldn't have minded that. But overall, really, really pretty shade. Really like the way that it's working with this whole look and the way that it works with my hair as well. So I've just got my notes over here because I watched through the footage and like really took notes and thought about how I feel about each of the shades. So this is a full review. So in conclusion, here are my thoughts for each shade. Oh, and just so you know, I'm actually wearing all 4 shades on my face today. Predominantly, I've got the 4th shade as my base, and then I just kind of layered the other 3 over top. Very cute. So I'm just gonna be reading my notes just off screen here. So shade number 1, contrary to the way that it's swatched on my arm, shade number 1, the pigmentation is actually kind of light in my opinion. That being said, it does build up very well, but I found I had to keep dipping in just to get the pigmentation level that I particularly prefer. Let's just apply a little bit more blush while we're here, because why not? I find my ring light tends to, let's get a little bit on the nose. I find I find my ring light tends to wash out my blush especially, so I feel like I have to layer it on quite a bit more than I actually would in real life. Yeah, like in real life, I look like I am feverish, whereas on camera, like it looks like a very nice, like it is still bold, but I just need to layer it on a bit more for it to actually show up the way that I want it to. Anyways, shade number 1 is on its own, I find it pretty natural looking. Obviously you can build it up to something a bit bolder and brighter, but just sort of normal application, I find it is kind of natural looking. I call this like an everyday blush just because it's not as pigmented and it's kind of foolproof in that way because you could layer on a lot of it and still have it not too bold, i.e. kind of is more office appropriate or in other situations where you'd kind of want lighter makeup. I would personally give this a 4 out of 5. Because you can build it up nicely, but for my personal preferences, I like a bit more pigmentation and I just find it annoying to keep having to dip into the pan until it actually builds up to the intensity and opacity that I like. As well, I wish there was a bit more variation, a bit more differentiation between shades 1 and 3. As you can see, these two shades look incredibly similar in the pan. This one's a bit more cool tone, I guess. This one's a bit more warm tone, but they look very, very similar in the pan. And that's the thing that I'll note about all 4 shades, although like there is some differentiation, but I find like you can mix them all together and they all kind of blend into each other. I'll get into that more later. So shade number 2. This one is like the most different shade in the pan. The other 3 look fairly similar, and this one is obviously a bit of a, it's like a peachy kind of, what would I call that? Like an apricot-y kind of color. This one I find blends in really, really nicely with bronzer or contour, obviously because it's sort of similarly toned. So if you have trouble mixing or blending your blush into your contour and they look very obviously different, like you have like a stripe kind of a blush and then a stripe kind of bronzer or contour, this shade is like very beginner friendly because it blends in very seamlessly with your bronzer and contour, so there's not as stark of a contrast. So I like that. It is also pretty pigmented, so I like that as well. So I consider this a natural everyday blush. Obviously you can build it up if you want it to be stronger, but it is a very good like natural blush if that's your thing. I consider this a natural everyday blush just because it's such a subtle color, even though you can obviously build it up to be pretty pigmented. And I give it a 5 out of 5 because I really like the pigmentation. I like that it's a different color in the palette. Like if I'm looking for a blush palette, I kind of do, even though I tend to kind of lean towards these pinkier shades, I do like some range. Like if I'm going to the trouble of buying a palette, I'd like to get some interesting shades in there because otherwise it's like, what's the point if I get like 3 blush shades that are kind of the same color? Like I might as well just go out and buy one single blush. But yeah, I like it. It blends really nicely. So yeah. Okay, shade number 3. So as I mentioned earlier, shade number 3 is very similar to shade number 1. Like honestly, if I had shade number 1 on one side, shade number 3 on the other side of my face, I probably wouldn't be able to tell them apart that much. That said, it's basically a more pigmented version of shade number 1. And for that reason, it's probably my favorite shade in the palette because it does show up so much more pigmented. Like it's just like, I don't see the point of shade number 1 because I have shade number 3. Like they're very similar tonally, even though like when you look at them, like you can see a difference, but I just find there isn't enough tonal variation for me. And I would have liked shade number 1 to be like, maybe like a purple blush or a red blush or like just something different. I find I can do very like flushed makeup looks and not have to build it up so much, whereas I do, as I mentioned, with shade number 1. If you use a very light hand, you can get a very natural, like office appropriate blush with any of these shades. I find this one is the most, the last 2 shades are the most pigmented. So obviously like use a lighter hand if you don't want to, you know, look a little feverish like I am today. And I would give this shade a 5 out of 5. It's gorgeous. It's really nice, easy to work with. All of these blend out very well. So I'm very happy with it. And then the final shade, this one, shade number 4, it's nicely pigmented. 3 and 4, I found like I can dip my brush in them, apply it, and I don't have to work too hard to build them up. So I like that. As I mentioned, shade number 4 has like these little sparkles in there, and I don't really see the point of them because they don't really show up. Like they don't really give that much of a sheen on your face. So I think like if this shade was supposed to be a bit more shimmery, like if it was kind of supposed to be like a NARS orgasm where the glitter particles kind of reflect light and it kind of makes you look dewier and rosier, more flushed and whatnot, then add more glitter, because the glitter in here, like, it looks pretty in the pan, I just don't really see it translating onto the face. That being said, it gives you a really, really pretty flushed look. It layers very nicely. As I mentioned, like, I put all 4 shades often on my face. They layer really nicely, and also it layers on top of itself fantastically. I would give it a 4.75 out of 5 just because the glitter doesn't really add anything. Like, if you're gonna put glitter in there, then I wish there was more reflectiveness. So overall, my thoughts on the palette as a whole, I wish there was more consistency with the pigmentation between all 4 shades. As I mentioned, the bottom 2 are probably the most pigmented. This one up here has a decent amount of pigmentation, and then this one, like, it's not like it's not pigmented. I just wish there was more pigmentation, and I wish like all 4 shades had the same degree or intensity of pigmentation, if that makes sense. Because otherwise, like, it just is inconsistent. As I mentioned earlier, all 4 shades, like, when you blend them together, they all kind of end up looking the same on your face. So I wish there was more tonal variation between the shades. As I mentioned before, like, it would have been nice if this shade was maybe a red or a purple. If I'm getting a palette with 4 different blush shades, I'd like them to actually be 4 different blush shades and not 3 shades that look pretty similar and then 1 other shade that kind of blends into the other 3. You get what I'm saying? But it's decently long lasting. I find this palette does like stay on my face all day. All the shades blend out really nicely, so no complaints there. It's really great for the price. It's $8. Looks like it's $8 US and Canadian, which is kind of confusing. It's a better deal to buy it in Canadian dollars. For the price, you're getting 4 eyeshadows, and these last like a really long time. Like, I haven't even made a dent in these other than where I dug my nail into the shade by accident. So these will last you a really long time. It's definitely worth your money. Would I pick it up again though? We'll have to see what else is on the market once I finish this palette up. Lately, I've been into more cream blushes, but I do sometimes like to put on a cream blush and then sort of seal it or lock it in over top with a powder blush. So we'll see what else is on the market, if there are any new products that come up by the time I finish this. I don't hate it. Like, I actually really do enjoy using this blush palette. This is like my everyday go-to blush palette, but we'll have to see what else is on the market once I finish this. So overall, I am really happy with this product. I know I'm like being very, very critical, but I am actually very, very happy. It's also, the size is very, very compact. It's great for traveling, although right now no one is doing any traveling, but if you were, it's very good for that. You could even, if you have a bit of a larger purse, you could throw it in your purse and just kind of tuck up throughout the day. So it's great for that. Overall, I'm very, very happy. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comment section below what you think. If you've tried out this palette before, or if you're interested in trying it out, let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you like the type of looks that I do here on my channel, as you can see, I change up my appearance quite a bit with makeup and wigs. So if that's your thing, I'd love it if you could check out and follow me on my other social media platforms. I am trying to grow my social media presence across all the platforms that I'm on, so it would really mean a lot to me if you could follow me there. If you like the type of content I post here and want to see more, I would really, really appreciate it if you could subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications, and that way you'll get updated every time I post a new video, and I'll see you guys next time.